This is...
Wow, I didn't know that.
Welcome to the premiere episode of Wow, I Didn't Know That. I'm Paula Reynolds. Each week we'll bring you odd and fascinating stories from science and technology. These will be the neat things they never told you about in high school physics class, news from the bleeding edge of science, and reflections from the dark side of technology. Our first story looks at wind turbines. More and more of these machines are being built to get free energy from the air. What's not to like? No carbon dioxide, and they never run out of fuel. But there's a downside to these graceful pinwheels. Noted Canadian broadcaster Jim Van Dusen dishes on the windmills.
Are wind turbines killing birds at an alarming rate? This is...
Wow, I didn't know that.
Well, it is a concern. There could be as many as 300,000 birds killed by wind turbines each year. That sounds like a big number, but when you compare it to cats, it's not that concerning. Cats kill birds a lot. That number is estimated to be around 4 billion. 4 billion as opposed to 300,000. Then there's windows. Birds fly into them. A lot. Windows kill around 100 million birds a year. No one is demanding we remove all windows. What might be more concerning, though, is the hundreds of thousands of bats who are struck down by wind turbines. The thing is, the bats might be drawn to the turbines because of the noise they make and the wind currents. So that's unfair. A bat is out there looking for love and then gets taken out by a wind turbine. So if anyone claims that the big problem with wind turbines is they kill millions of birds, you can quash that argument, then give them the bat ammunition. But you can't wait too long because the newest wind turbines are getting quieter and quieter, and thus addressing the bat problem.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Is a production of EP5.
One of the oldest and most mysterious questions facing science. Are we alone in the universe? Much nonsense has been expressed about E.T., most of it on Star Trek. Some argue that there must be other intelligent races in the universe, given the unimaginably large number of galaxies, stars, and planets out there. But what have scientists had to say? In 1950, while walking to lunch at the Los Alamos National Laboratory with Edward Teller and two other physicists, Enrico Fermi suddenly asked the now immortal question about extraterrestrial aliens. Where are they? Fermi's paradox takes note of the contradiction between the lack of evidence of real ETs and the high probability estimates for extraterrestrial civilizations. His reasoning was, there are billions of stars in the galaxy similar to the Sun, many of them much older than Earth. Very likely, some of these stars will have Earth-like planets, and if the Earth is typical, some might develop intelligent life. Some of these civilizations might develop interstellar travel, a step humans are already investigating. Even at the low speeds possible with known interstellar travel technology, the Milky Way galaxy could be traveled from end to end in just a few million years. By this line of reasoning, the Earth should have already been visited by E.T. Fermi noted that there is absolutely no convincing evidence of this, leading him to ask, where is everybody? There have been many attempts to explain the Fermi paradox, some more convincing than others. Primarily, these hypotheses either suggest that intelligent extraterrestrial life is extremely rare or propose reasons why such civilizations have not contacted us. We take a quick look at some of these explanations. Natalie Gray reports from Ojai, California, Frank Stecky from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and the ever-popular Paula Reynolds, hey, that's me, from Ithaca.
Today, we look at some reasons why we have yet to hear from E.T. We'll start with the most obvious. No other civilizations have arisen.
Maybe it's the nature of intelligent life to destroy itself through nuclear war or environmental vandalism.
Intelligent life destroys others. A successful alien species would be a super predator, as are humans.
Life is periodically destroyed by naturally occurring extinction events before the species can develop the technology to communicate with others.
Intelligent civilizations are too far apart in space or time.
It's too expensive to travel the galaxy.
Humans have not existed long enough.
Humans are not listening with the right hardware. Perhaps ETs use modulated neutrino streams to communicate, which we cannot yet detect.
They tend to isolate themselves. They have no interest in us. Can you imagine the nerve?
They are too alien. Why should ET share our values? Or think as we think? We can't understand our own cats. How could we understand real aliens?
They're non-technological. It's never occurred to them to communicate off-world.
Everyone is listening, but no one is transmitting.
It's just not time for them yet. Gamma ray bursts can sterilize large portions of entire galaxies, and they may be tapering off in frequency of occurrence. This means that intelligent civilizations are just now beginning to emerge, and it's our bad luck to be one of the very first.
Perhaps our entire world is simply a complex simulation running on a complex computer belonging to a complex race infinitely more sapient than we are. Maybe this simulation is being run by those beings simply to resolve the Fermi paradox at no risk.
Earth is deliberately not contacted. The zoo hypothesis. We are being protected. Think prime directive.
It is dangerous to communicate. When different civilizations meet, it's often disastrous for one side, and the same may apply to interstellar contact.
The Fermi paradox itself. Perhaps every civilization keeps quiet because of the possibility that there is a good reason for others to do so.
Aliens are like us, scared spitless of their own ferocity and aggression, so, assuming that everyone else in the cosmos is equally lethal, they're keeping their heads down and playing at being invisible.
Earth is purposely isolated, the planetarium hypothesis. Everything out there is just a constructed illusion to keep us in the dark, for our protection.
My favorite, Earth is purposely isolated, the quarantine hypothesis. Humans are so inimically dangerous that all the ETs have conspired to keep us locked up here for their protection. And very possibly, none of the above. I'm Paula Reynolds.
My favorite, the classical explanation? The proof that extraterrestrial intelligence exists is that they have not had anything to do with us. I'm Natalie Gray.
And finally, my favorite. They're already here, undetected and unacknowledged. We could call that one the Twilight Zone or Outer Limits hypothesis. I'm Frank Stecky.
If you ask a physicist about ET, she might explain all sorts of reasons why we cannot determine whether there is anyone out there. If you ask a child, she'll simply tell you to get your biggest telescope and look for bright lights on the dark sides of planets orbiting other stars. Only smart creatures can invent light bulbs, right? It turns out that this could have been possible had the proposed overwhelmingly large telescope been built. And yes, that was its name. Alas, it would have cost too much, and a far smaller one was decided on instead. Looks as though we'll have to wait a while to discover if we really are alone in the cosmos. In war, it has long been understood that technological superiority can negate the advantages of numerical superiority, but the scary reality is that even small countries can now obtain and deploy high tech. Natalie Gray investigates stealth technology. Maybe it's not all that it's cracked up to be.
Your enemy is not bashful about threatening to use their bombers. You build as many radar stations as you can. They put anti-radar missiles on each bomber. Not good. You cannot defend against threats you can't see coming. But a radar station is a beacon that yells, "Here I am." As soon as your radar lights up, the enemy sees it and your station gets thumped. What do? You think outside the box. Radar transmits energy out into the world, and this gets you into trouble. What if you could skip this step and not warn your enemy that you're looking for him? The air is saturated with radio energy. Signals from radio and television stations, airport radar, citizens' band, cellular towers, and those suckers are everywhere. There's no place free of radio transmissions going in all directions. So what? They're completely unorganized. True enough, but so what? Visualize an enemy bomber flying through that radio soup. It will absorb some of the energy and reflect some. Even with stealth technology, it will inevitably disturb our thick radio soup. And that disturbance can be seen. With current technology, you can watch your country's radio soup and detect anything moving through it. Anything. Now it's your enemy's turn to worry. I'm Natalie Gray.
That was a bit grim, wasn't it? But wait, you haven't heard anything yet. For millennia, mankind has been plagued by that horrible social embarrassment, stomach growl. Yes, that dreadful noise that you make when you're hungry. We all have it, but no one wants to talk about it. Well, we do. Here's Jim Van Dusen again with the gory details.
Here's why your stomach growls when you're hungry. This is... Wow, I didn't know that! Generally speaking, oh dear, stomach growling, or as it's technically known, borborygmy, so embarrassing, is the noise created during rhythmic muscle contractions in your stomach and intestines. Your digestive system is one big long tube. It goes from your mouth to, well, your butt, and a lot of interesting biological machinery in between. Now, how the body gets food through this long tube is accomplished via waves of muscle contractions. Now, these waves of muscle contractions also serve to mix and churn foods, liquids, and digestive juices together. The resulting cocktail is called chyme. But why does your stomach seem to growl more when you're hungry? Well, when your stomach and intestines are empty, it triggers a reflexive generation of contraction waves. Okay, this needs to stop. Now, even though there isn't very much of anything in your stomach that needs to be moved along, it's meant to clear out all of your stomach's contents. It's your body's way of doing a little house cleaning. And if you think of your stomach like a hot water bottle, when you shake a hot water bottle when it's full, it doesn't make much noise. When it has less in it, all of a sudden you can hear all that sloshing. So that's why it sounds like your stomach's growling only when you're hungry. But really, it's kind of growling all the time. Wow, I didn't know that is a production of EP5.
The next time you sit down to eat at a fancy dinner party and someone accidentally lets everyone else know how hungry he is, you can fascinate your fellow guests with the messy truth. This week's Wow, I Didn't Know That featured Jim Van Dusen, Natalie Gray, and Frank Stecky. It was mostly written and totally produced by David Fisher. We'll be back next week with more science and technology. I'm Paula Reynolds.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Is a production of the EP5 Educational Broadcasting Foundation.